2017, which is when I started this company, what are they doing? They pick up the phone, a phone that could put a man on the moon with its computing power, and they would phone up the supplier and say, "I need a rig up here," and the guy would come up with a paper ticket still. I mean, it's crazy. So I said, "Look, would you phone a hotel to book a hotel? No, you just look online with your phone. That's what you should be doing for your trucking." So uh, that's kind of funny how industries just don't change very fast. Like AI today, right? It's
Yeah.
everyone says they're using it. It's like you know, kids, teenage sex. Everyone talks a big game, but they're not really doing it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, today we've got a perfect pairing. We've got the Liquid Lunch Project paired with Sean Languedoc. Mr. Languedoc, welcome to the podcast. Tell us about your newest venture, Outforced.ai, and then we're going to do a deep dive because you're just a perennial entrepreneur. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Outforce.ai just solves the problem of outsourcing in a way that hasn't been done before. You just have so many. I mean, everyone in this audience probably has been solicited by some outsourcing agency, excuse me, and they don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't want that outsourcing agency. They don't trust it. And so there's a lot of noise. And everyone, if you ever needed one, every agency would tell you they can do exactly what you want to do. So you don't even trust them on the phone. So you go to your friend and say, "Hey, do you know an agency?" And that friend might have used an agency in the past that had a good experience and they had good engineers. But when you call them, those engineers are already booked out to another client. So they're not good to you. But they sound really good on the phone. So you use them anyway, and you find out later they don't have the right engineers. Or they don't know anything about your business. You got to know health tech. You got to know that there's all these constraints within health tech with electronic medical records. And they don't know anything about that. So you spend 3 months teaching them about that stuff, but they're good engineers. So these are the things that waste a lot of time. And as a result, most engineering projects that are outsourced fail. They may make it through by just grit and pressure and hard, training of the other agency on your dime, which is a waste of time. So I decided to build a database on who's good at what, in what domain, in what tech stack, and help companies find the best agency for them. So that's what we do. And we do it at what would take on your own probably 3 months. We do it in a matter of a couple of weeks because we got the big database on who's good at what. And we have like 49 tags. And then we do a deep dive on due diligence on the team that's being presented. So you're not saddled with a good agency that has a crappy team. And then we let you choose which one you want out of the top ones. And because we're starting with a database of thousands, literally 79,000 agencies, we can get down to the top five. We'll have 2 or 3 companies where the team is just coming off a project. They've built 5 of the same thing that you're building. And when you get 2 engineers working together, it's 5 times productivity. You get 5 engineers working together and they know your space, you're hitting the ground running. So that's what we do.
You're strictly in tech right now, but I feel like there's capacity to do this in a lot of different industries.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking accounting and attorneys, because you go to an attorney and you need something done and they're the best, they can do it. And then the same thing, you get a bill for 3 months worth of work or them doing research on the problem they knew how to solve.
Exactly. Yeah, there are companies that do that. There's a company called I Know a Guy, or I think it's called You Should Meet This Guy. Yeah. There's things like that, and there's another one called out of Calgary in Canada called Good Lawyer, and they do that. They do the same sort of thing. Yeah, they're like the Upwork of lawyers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah.
I feel like this has happened to us, Matt, a couple of times. So, Sean, let me ask you let's do a deep dive. So the exact analogies that you gave earlier has happened to Matt and I. We asked for a referral, we asked for a recommendation. Hey, it came highly recommended. They must be great.
Yeah.
And then after a month, 2 months of explaining to them our business model, right? It's not overly complex, but there's always that initial ignorance that we have to overcome. So once you've taught them your business model, then you realize, well, they're still not the right person. So you've gone down this 2-month rabbit hole. How do you help Matt is much more techie than I am,
Okay.
but assuming you've got someone that is very base knowledge and technology like me, how does Outforce help us navigate what we need until we realize what we actually need?
That's an excellent question. And you hit on just two of the other things that can go wrong. But you hit a double right there, like wrong agency because they didn't know anything about my business, and then the wrong person who can't figure out how to program. The thing about knowing a business is so critical because there's so many nuances to what you're saying when you're telling them stuff, and you want them
Right.
to understand the whole picture. So you want an agency that has multiple projects in your space, and they can help you solve problems that you might not even know you have with the product, right? So to answer your question, how do we solve for that? Due diligence is the bottom line. And because we have pattern recognition in our due diligence process, we're way faster at it than anyone else. And we also know what questions to ask that will reveal a truth without them saying it. I'll give you an example. So you go in and like most people would just phone the leadership of the agency, right? And the leadership of the agency, guess what? Every day they take a call like that, right? Hey, oh, we know that stuff. Oh yeah, I've got George. Oh, George is great. Come on, I'll introduce you to George. He's my best CTO. And then George, for some reason, was not available when you actually signed the contract to actually do the work, and he's disappeared. So that's the bait and switch tactic. We make sure that you get the bottom up approach. So we only let you interview agencies that have the right team at the right time. We don't accept anything that's going to be 2 weeks out. They can find somebody. They have to be employees or existing under contract. And they have to have on their resume the statistical data on how many projects they've done in your space, and obviously depth and years of experience in the tech stack. So you get those, both of those put out of the way. Now that's interesting enough, but the real challenge when you're dealing with another agency is, do they really understand what I'm saying when I'm saying it? Like, what does complete mean to you versus what the complete means to the agency? Done, or I got the first version and it's still doing QA and it's busting up my QA, or or is it or do I have to explain every single step? So that communication can break apart in a variety of ways, and it's a two-way street. Two-way street. So just think of cultural differences, right? So there's not just they've got they're the right people. Like we've even had North American companies as the client and the vendor, where things have fallen apart based on one or two people in the team, and that's not because they didn't meet the technical specs or the project experience. It's because they couldn't handle criticism. And this was a fast-moving, agile, and high-performing engineering team that they had to work with, and this person just couldn't take criticism. So that's why we also look at how deep their bench is in the tech stack, in the domain experience. So we know that if one person doesn't work out for soft skills reasons, we can yank them out.
So I have a question.
Mm.
We're using the term agency, right? So
Yeah.
let's break this down for the audience and unpack it. When we say agency, we're going to another company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This other company are they out finding the talent for that company? Or are they usually like,
No.
if they were here in the Northeast, W-2 employees for that agency?
No, they'd be W-2 employees for that agency. They would, or they'd be long-term contractors for that agency, right? So some that
Now,
so it's not, you're not using an agency to hire somebody. You're using an agency as a contracting agency, like you would an advertising agency, right?
So now when you're developing the tech, you want to sit down, you want to meet with the people that are actually you're going to be working with,
Yep.
right? How often does it happen that the team comes in, they meet with your client,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They bring the A team,
Right.
so to speak,
Yeah.
right? But then all of a sudden, you're in tech world, you're communicating on Slack, you met Michael, you think you're talking to Michael, but Norman's really the one doing the job, and you have no way to figure that out.
Oh no.
Michael was a great North American guy that you sat down face to face with, and now it's
It's
Saeed over in
Sunil.
India. Getting
Yeah.
outsourced
And
to
he's not
talk
available
to.
during working hours. I don't know what's going on. He seems
I
to be
don't
available at
understand.
midnight.
He doesn't. He's not understanding what I'm saying. But he spoke perfect English when we were here.
Yeah.
How
No.
often does that happen?
With us, not. That's what we filter against. And we
Okay.
look at agencies that have a good track record as well, so that we know they're not bait and switching. But we also part of the credentials is they have to make sure that that person is going to be available for 2 to 3 weeks for the client, because it might take 2 or 3 weeks to decide and then close on a contract. Um,
Okay.
but to your point, you get that, this is not just India, it's any other place. You have cultural differences in different parts of the world, right? So Southeast Asia, generally hierarchical society, right? So you don't question authority. Whereas you're in North America, you're a Boston Irish engineering company. Guess what? It's like busting balls all day, right? So that person just does not work within that culture, right? They just don't know how to handle it. They don't say anything, and what you want are people questioning the boss, questioning why you're doing this, and really challenging everybody to do the right thing and get the best outcome.
Another example is timing. Like you have two native New Yorkers like Matt and I, and we say right away. Right away tends to mean right away.
Yeah,
Or
yeah. It's
maybe you
like
have someone from a different geography. Right away means mañana, mañana.
totally, absolutely. I think it's IST or this is Africa. This is these are different colloquialisms for what really means on time, right? New York,
Yeah.
like what's the definition of a split second in New York?
No, what is it?
The time between when the light goes green and somebody honks at you.
No, but that's so true. Like not just in the tech world, but we have people that we work with that are overseas, and we started in the Philippines and Southeast Asia,
Right?
and they do exactly what you tell them to do.
Exactly.
So that didn't work so well for us.
Yeah.
I want somebody to come and challenge me and tell me when I'm wrong and this isn't working. We got to try something else. So right now, I mean, Jorge, who produces our show, he's out in South America. We
Yeah.
found South American people to work better with us.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more feisty and they're not afraid to tell you, hey, we should try it this way.
But Jorge subscribes to the FITFO theory. He knows to figure it the fuck out.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what you look for. You look for people who've done a lot of North American business. They know the culture of that, and they're ready and able to do it. So going back to, so we do these interviews. Like sometimes I see like a client they don't care about time zone, so they'll go anywhere in the world, and so that's great. But you can see the differences in the interview process. We tell them, hey, look, when you go to Southeast Asia, they're going to be very polite and nice, and they're going to say what you want to hear, but they might not fully understand what you're saying. When you go to some parts of Eastern Europe, they're going to tell you that if the leader will speak and will tell you, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and I'm the smartest guy in the room, and the rest of the people will just shut up. And then in South America, Latin America, it'll be like, hey, fiesta, let's party. It's like they're very yappy. So you might feel more affinity to one, but you don't know where the better engineers are between the three, and that's what we help them understand, to go through that cultural difference and evoke what is really happening at the engineering level.
Now, who are your target clients? Who do you usually work with? Is it startups? Is it mid-sized companies? Is it Fortune 500 companies?
A lot of time it's mid-sized growing companies. Sometimes it's traditional industry, because everything, if you're going to take margin into a company, technology is one of the best ways to do it. And some of these companies are way behind in technology and they need to be upgraded. So digital transformation work, refactoring, so that the product that you built to get the company to product market fit and to scaling is now busting because it was, bootstrapped and patchworked and it's spaghetti code, and you got to rebuild it. But your engineering team is the only one that can figure out the spaghetti. So you got to bring in another agent. You got to bring in another party to go and build the new scalable product that knows the business and can scale it. And then you swap them out as you onboard to the new product. But we've done some brand new companies, and we've done some big enterprises as well.
Do you ever get approached by companies that traditionally don't have their own tech but want to build it?
No. What do you mean you don't have their own tech?
So let's take a construction company.
Yeah.
Right? and a construction company is using, I don't know, another invoicing platform or something along those lines.
Yeah.
They're tired of it breaking down. They're tired of it working, and they want to bring on their own project.
Yeah.
Could somebody like that come to you to find a team to help them build that out?
Yeah.
Or are you more along with problem solvers for specific tech companies?
No, that would be a situation where I've got about I mean, like I said, we've got thousands of companies in our database, but I've got a half dozen what I would call Ocean's 11 teams who will
Okay.
come in and they'll understand the architecture required. They'll understand the best user experience. They'll merge that with the brains of the organization. These are smart people, so they get things fast. And then
Mm-hmm.
and they'll design what should be the product, what I call the proof of concept product. And then that's your test play, and away you go. And then if you like it, you build an engineering team around it in-house, or you keep going with an agency, maybe at a lower cost to run and scale it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sean, tell us a little bit about the GTM Fund, because it seems like you're very active there.
GTM Fund is amazing. It was designed out of a podcast, effectively, with SaaS, software as a service, enterprise salespeople solving problems
Okay.
for other enterprise salespeople in the sales business. So it's basically a bunch of, so they build an audience of chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers, and then they decided that maybe we've got enough brain power, we could actually help solve problems for portfolio companies. So I decided to build a fund. And so it has its own direct investments in sort of Series A, but it also gets tagged in with Sequoia, A16Z, and all the big houses who love it because of the brain power and network that the LPs of GTM Fund offers. There's no better go-to-market minds in that place, like the guys who built Gong, senior vice president of LinkedIn. I mean, all these kinds of things. So they've got the network, and they can help portfolio companies. It's great fun.
And what's your role with the GTM Fund?
Oh, I'm just one of the partners. I'm not. I don't run the GTM Fund by any stretch of the imagination. They have much smarter people that do that.
Fun. So you speak about Outforce with such vigor and such energy.
Yeah.
One would think that this is your baby, but this is your 5th go round.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the 4 prior companies that you gave birth to.
Well, I don't know how much time you got on this podcast because I could go on forever. But yeah, so I mean, as entrepreneurs are pretty stupid. Like we just don't know what we're doing, and we figure out a problem that needs to be solved, and sometimes we just can't not scratch that itch, and we go. So, I mean, even this company started off as a completely different idea and morphed into a bigger company, and it started to grow and it's doing well. First one was
What was the original idea?
originally.
I'm always interested.
Okay.
I'm always interested in the pivot because it seems like every successful company usually has a pivoting moment.
Oh, totally.
So
Yeah.
So what was the pivot?
So
What was the original idea?
yeah, so I was living in a city called Calgary, which is kind of like the Houston of Canada. And I built a company called Payload, which was Uber meets oilfield trucking. And Calgary had all these reservoir engineers who were unemployed because oil sector had just tanked, no pun intended. And concurrently, your president at the time, Donald Trump, had done this Muslim ban. And so that meant that these people from Syria and Iran who are currently working at, AAA US tech firms like Facebook, Google, and such, just so you know, the Middle East is the heartland of the best mathematicians in the world. And the education out of Iran and Syria, well, prior to Syria's devastation, but is like almost unparalleled. And Israel is obviously excellent for that as well. But so these people were feeling like I can't even go home to visit my grandma, and I can't come back to the country. And I'm the senior vice president of technology at Facebook. What am I going to do? So recognize that problem. I just brought a few people down from Calgary, said, and to introduce some friends I had in some of those companies, and said, "What do you think? We got these guys who are really good at math, reservoir engineers. You guys got a guy who's got a problem with being in the United States. We'll bring him up to Canada, same sort of time zone, and Bob's your uncle. You got a team around him, and away you go." And that worked as a starting point. Then under Trump again, he went after the H-1Bs. He didn't want to renew anyone's temporary work visa. That was a more scalable problem. So, and I was just doing that for fun for Calgary. Then Calgary wanted to become a tech hub. So I started to say, okay, these H-1Bs aren't going to renew. You got to somebody who's lived in the United States for 15 years, probably has kids born there, he's just waiting for a green card, but it takes so long. So, but they're going to have to go back to their home country, and they're a critical asset for a company at this point. So I went down and I just basically farmed these guys out and said, we'll sponsor their visa and then contract them back to you in the United States, but they'll work from wherever the same time zone in Canada. And it's like they moved, from Houston to Minnesota sort of thing, right? It's no big deal. And that worked out, and that started to scale up. And then people started to say, hey, Sean, can you bring me some of these engineers? And I said, no, this is a closed loop. But then they said, but do they know anybody? So yeah, so I started to bring in Ukrainians and Indians and all these guys, high-end engineers, super, super smart. And I started an international recruiting business, and that was called Global Talent
Nice.
Accelerator. But then COVID happened and wiped the whole business out of the park. So
Okay.
so I had to rethink it. And recruiting it actually I didn't like as a business because it's one and done. You get your check for commission for having brought the person in and everything else, and then you're out of business the next month, right? So contracting, however, is recurring revenue, and COVID meant that remote's going to be okay. So and I had that problem as I described of selecting an engineering firm. So I used some of these people who I'd used as sourcers for recruiting to go and investigate agencies and who was good at what. And that was my starting point. And then I built it from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a pain, but it's worked out.
So you're a big shot in Calgary.
No. There's much bigger shots than me in Calgary. Yeah.
All right. So that was the pivot, but let's go back to the starting point.
Oh, you really want, okay. So the first company, I was raising the dough for Vancouver's Olympic bid. Okay.
Okay.
Which they were successful at. And as a result, I got to meet all these people who are chief marketing officers of a variety of brands. And at the same time, the internet was transforming the world. This is like before most people in this audience are born. This is late 90s, early 2000s. And I'm going, okay, look at this. I'm in the marketing industry. The travel industry is disrupted. How? Because Expedia, Travelocity have taken all the data that used to sit with a travel agent who used to book all your flights because they were the only ones who knew the information. Is now exposed on the internet to the end user, and now you can book your own right? Own flights. Doesn't seem like rocket science today, but it was back then. Same thing with stock exchange, right? You used to pay a broker 15 points on every trade. How much value was that broker giving you? Zero. Maybe buying you lunch once a year to talk about your portfolio. So throw that to the end user and you got E-Trade. You got Charles Schwab's new version, everything. So those two industries, multi-billion-dollar industries, were being disrupted. Here was advertising, $250 billion industry at the time, now trillion, and nothing like that. So I decided to build a product that would disrupt the agency. And I went around to these CMOs and I said, hey, what do you think? I got this idea, we're going to change the world. And so many said, yes, that's a great idea. Go for it, Sean. So I raised a bit of dough. And then I came across one guy, he said, that is the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. I went, whoa. What do you know that nobody else is telling me? He said, look at me. I'm the CMO of this company. He said, yeah. And how do you think I got here? I said, well, you probably kiss some ass and you probably you do a good job. He goes, yeah, but I don't take risks. And he said, okay. And so what's that got to do with it? He says, okay, so you're saying I spend 15% of my ad budget on an agency that buys my media. And you're saying, hire a bunch of people at $30,000 a pop and they'll go buy my media. I'll save tens, maybe 100 million bucks. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, okay, so that sounds great economically, but what happens if the media campaign fails? What happens today? You fire your agency. Right. what happens if everyone's on my team? You get fired? Yeah, now you're getting it. So I kind of revisited that, and it ended up that all these companies, at least in the television space, and those who remember television used to have shows like Friends and very popular Thursday night programming. It was the owner. It owned most of the media spending, but the trades were all happening by fax. You'd have the output of a media sales organization faxed over to an agency. They'd retype all that information into their analytics database, and then they'd come back with a counter offer on what they wanted to buy. And we're talking about campaigns. It's not talking about one spot. We're talking about 6 months worth of business for a brand. And then by the time that agency got back, half that inventory is already sold. So they got to rebuild the proposal, back and forth, all this crap, all these data entry errors. It was a nightmare. And so I decided to build a Rosetta Stone that would translate the data from the sell side and move it into the buy side, and then have real live data in between. So it eliminated all the entry errors and sped up the business. So I called it Add to Media, and my pitch was, we're bringing back the 3 martini lunch, just like your show, guys.
I
Because you
love
don't
it.
have to waste all that time doing data entry. You can get back to the people side of the business, which they love, right? And
Yeah.
that worked out okay. And that was a pivot. Boy, that was a pivot that got in early. Thank goodness.
What's crazy is to think back, not that long ago, we were still sending faxes.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Can you imagine that now? I mean,
yeah,
whew.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of crazy stuff that still goes on. Like, people still have on-prem. They still have, a lot of people working on paper and spreadsheets. I mean, this company Payload was, I came into Calgary thinking I was brought in by a private equity firm, and they said, "Yeah, this is what we want to do. Can you build a tech company for me?" They knew the trucking industry. I didn't know anything about it. I said, "Aren't there 100 companies doing this already?" I said, "No." So the pitch was, okay, first rig in the oil field. What happened in Leduc? 1917. The guy dialed up on his phoned his buddy, said, "Bring a rig, bring the pipe, bring all this stuff." And then when that rig was delivered, the guy would hand him a carbon copy. He'd write out the ticket, right, and leave him the ticket, take the carbon copy back to accounting, and then accounting would pile up those tickets and send them to the client after about a month, and charge the bill. 2017, which is when I started this company, what are they doing? They pick up the phone, a phone that could put a man on the moon with its computing power, and they would phone up the supplier and say, "I need a rig up here," and the guy would come up with a paper ticket still. I mean, it's crazy. So I said, "Look, would you phone a hotel to book a hotel? No, you just look online with your phone. That's what you should be doing for your trucking." So that's kind of funny how industries just don't change very fast. Like AI today, right? It's
Yeah.
everyone says they're using it. It's like, teenage sex. Everyone talks a big game, but they're not really doing it.
I think so. It's crazy that it's everything though, right? I mean, I guess when Elon was going through all the government files, he said he had to walk down 3 flights of stairs and go to the file room, right? Because it's
Totally.
nothing's digitalized. It's insane.
Yep.
It's
It's
really pretty
safer
crazy.
though. In a
Even
way,
back,
it's safer.
yeah, I definitely agree with that, right? But even some banks that we work with, smaller community banks, they're still stuck in the Stone Age
Yeah.
on the way they do things and process things.
Yeah. Technology
Luigi,
moves way faster than human behavior, right?
But sometimes the more things change, the more they stay the same. Matt and I were having a conversation the other day with one of our lenders, and they are a fintech firm, and we're asking him, what's your greatest ROI on marketing? Like, what works the best?
Right.
And I was astounded to find out he told us mailers. So I
Mailers.
said, you have to understand the irony here is profound. I mean, you are a fintech firm and your greatest marketing funnel is mailers. Like, so go figure. Maybe there's that happy medium somewhere where you obviously need an Outforce.ai to find the right agency, but you also need that trench warfare-like expertise to really apply the know-how.
Well, yeah. I mean, mailers. There's a friend of mine, and I recommend you visit him, Jordan Crawford at Blueprint, I think it is .com. He started a company with postcards, hyper personalized postcards it's a marketing agency, and that's all he did. But he would get all the data and figure out how to get it hyper personalized. Now he's leveraging all the LLMs to figure out a much better way of doing it. And what he does is permissionless value proposition, and he just collects a bunch of data specific to a client's potential customer, and then sends them new deals based on that data that client is missing, and then says, "You want more? Here's my client." But yeah, you have to break through the noise, because there's so many agents that are now sending you emails saying, "Hey, we can give you a BDR, an SDR. We can book you 40,000 meetings in a month." Yeah, sure you can. Nobody's listening to it anymore. All the channels that we used to pay attention to are too noisy now. So you've got to break through with something different.
Sean, are you still enjoying the flight with Outforce.ai, or you're ready to jump out and pull the parachute line?
I'm just starting to get into the air with this one. This one's
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, private equity companies generally are my target. Who have portfolio companies that, normally a private equity company signs a big check and say, "Okay, here's the agency we've used in the past," and they're kind of like, "Oh, I guess I got to use that agency." Now they can say, "Here's a guy who will find you the right agency for what you got to do. You just got to get it done," and we make sure they get it done. So it's
That's
just
awesome.
starting to take
You're
off.
smart.
Just starting to take off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got us drinking the Kool-Aid. We love it. This is great.
Sean, thank you so much for being here. We want to be respectful of your time. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find Outforce.ai, get in touch with you if they have any questions?
Yeah, so Sean at SEAN, the Irish way, at Outforced.ai, or just go to our website. You can eventually find me. And yeah, I'm also going to be publishing a series of videos on all the secrets of how to interview an agency and how to write a good contract with an agency. So we'll get you there as well. And that'll be a free publication available on the site. But if you want it early, just send me an email and I'll take care of you.
Sean, thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap. The Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Let's go!